Oh, we're live now, so I get to repeat it. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining, and we're going to wait 1 minute before we start the webinar. All right, for those of you who are joining, we're giving it a minute before we start the webinar. Thank you for joining. All right, everyone. Thank you again for joining our webinar regarding custom application development, the software as a service way. We appreciate you joining, and we're here to talk about accelerated growth, better scalability, amplified security, and flexibility. So with that, we're going to talk about our agenda, what we're going to cover today in the webinar. We're going to cover why do companies prefer this custom development, why to develop them in the SaaS way, and then why software products are becoming SaaSy, the benefits of SaaS development, the SaaS development approach for custom applications, and why outsource your SaaS product development or your custom product development, and then what Synoptic's capabilities are with respect to SaaS capabilities, and some case studies that we've done to talk about this information a little bit more. And before we get into this content of covering, we're going to do some introductions. I'm Debbie Zelton. I'm the Director of Application Development and Business Intelligence, and I've been working in this area for over 20 years developing custom applications. And here today, we also have my colleague, Manon, and he's going to introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Debbie. I'm working in this industry for past 16 years, mainly working as a consulting manager for various kind of enterprise application, custom development of web and mobile application, as well as designing enterprise architecture for the application. So really excited to speak to you about some of the SaaS development and what is happening in that area. Over to you, Debbie.
All right. Thanks, Manon. Before we get into the content, we are going to ask our first poll question, and it is regarding, are you considering to develop a SaaS application in-house? I think you'll see the poll up there on the right and the answers. So if you want to go ahead and answer that you are planning to develop a SaaS application, or that you've tried and weren't successful, or you're not planning on doing any development immediately, or you are looking to outsource the development. So I'll go on to the next slide, and we will then talk about the next slide and then cover the answers to the poll after the next slide. So let's start talking about why do companies prefer custom development. So the custom software development focuses on your goals, your needs, specific business needs, targets your idea, usually automates some sort of process or creates some sort of portal. And it's very specific to your business process. As we mentioned here, it's tailor-made. You get all the ownership of the software and control that goes from branding to the way you develop it, the processes, the way it looks, the way it feels. It's specific to your culture, to your company, and again, as the word describes it, it's custom. It's also would be built to be scalable for your organization. There's no maintenance or licensing fees that you need to pay for. You own it. And then it's also easy to make modifications at your leisure. based on your business processes or, again, your needs, or maybe the user feedback as you go through the evolution of as you're developing that particular product or custom development. And Manon, do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
So I think that's a very good point, Debbie, that you brought up around the custom development. And one thing is pretty important, that nowadays, the software industry, let's accept that that's pretty crowded. There are plenty of softwares available in market, but still there is nothing that is built for a general purpose stuff fits to all the needs that an organization has. So there is always going to be those elements, which is where the technology will have to adapt to the business, and that's where I think the business comes first, and that's where the need or the demand for the custom application always going to be there, because you'll always want something which is tailor-made for you, which is suiting your needs. And that's why I think the companies or the businesses prefer that that's an application built specifically for their need, for their purpose, and integrated with all the systems that they want. So yeah, that's, I think, one of the reasons why it is very popular. Now, when we talk about this custom development, we need to understand that, okay, there are different ways of doing it. People, many years ago, it used to be waterfall model, that people used to do the application, get the requirement, and then do the development and go to the testing and launch the product. Then came the agile, and a lot of things changed. A lot of iterations happened. The product used to get launched into market. The application used to be tested through the live audience, through the live users. So what exactly has changed, and why are we saying that in a SaaS way? So the terminology is around software as a service. So if we learn about the software industry in itself, there are some people call the term product development, some people call it as software development, while there are others who term it as the application development. So what exactly is the difference, and why we call it as this way? I mean, anybody wants to build a custom application to suit their needs, but to make it SaaS way is something that we are saying that, okay, just think it from a product perspective. Even though you're trying to build this as an in-house application, or you have an idea which you want to convert that into a product and capture the market share into that particular space with a unique proposition of the product that you want to build. You want this to be expanded as a global product used by millions of users across the geography. So all these things are something which will make a headway for the SaaS products. And as Debbie mentioned earlier, uh, you literally can make it custom based on all the features that you need. And when we talk about SaaS way, not just making it in form of either a waterfall or an agile, let's just really think from a product perspective, that let's assume that we want this to be used by multiple people, multiple users. Let's assume that even though it is not used right now in different geographies, but let's say we want to extend that further. Whether it's an application built for a single department, can we think of making it extendable to other department as well? So all these possibilities, if you try to make the application in a SaaS way, that gives you that kind of flexibility. And also with a modern day tool, enablement of cloud, the DevOps evolution, and all those things will put you in a position that you can really control the overall quality of the application, the overall user experience, the deployment, the uh, kind of scale at which you want to operate your application. And with all those things, you can make your releases faster. And that's why we are saying that not just build an application just for the sake of building or making it something where you just make it usable for a specific purpose or specific need, but really make it something where you yourself build a product which is kind of unique in a way, so that it can be used for many different purposes and not just really confined to that one silo for which it is initially built for. And I was talking about DevOps. Debbie, I think you have pretty good handle on that. Do you want to just talk about how that can help to make the application a SaaS way?
Yeah, so if you start building your application and set up all the process around the CI/CD pipeline, you can allow when you've developed a SaaS application, it allows you to speed up releasing those features by setting up a CI/CD pipeline where your code is integrated with the DevOps process, and you can run when you check in your code, you can see some of the problems initially, so that you don't take a long release process, and then you can deploy it very quickly out to many different users, right? Because it's SaaS, and the DevOps pipeline is integrated with the whole application. So
Right.
it's good to not only just set up your application when you develop your custom app, but then to also include the DevOps processes so that you can get the benefits of, getting to your users of the application these new features as you develop them. And there's not this long waiting period to go through a very large release cycle. So again, this goes with integration of all of your customized ecosystem of all the components of your custom application, right? And then it also, some of the other components are, security, right? And you have the ability to improve the application as frequently or as less frequently as you like, because you own that SaaS application.
And also, Debbie, I mean, do you want to throw some light on because all these applications are nowadays with an evolution of BI and data. It's very crucial that you have a handle of on that application so that the data it generates. I think the integration part that you're talking about, that makes true sense to have it really integratable to those data warehouses and all. So, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I think it's one of the other great components in the applications that we have built is really just integrating some of the reporting right into the application, because you can set up your cloud data warehouse or whatever your data solution might be, and embed that data, or get access to that data within your SaaS application to provide valuable KPIs for your users. So it's all one integrated system versus having multiple different places where somebody has to log in to get the information. So those are some of the
Yeah.
benefits of really integrating all of that into one SaaS application, and basically, utilizing the cloud for that platform.
Right. So now we kind of understand that the custom application needs to be built, and there is definitely SaaS is the way forward that you should be building those products. But I'm sure there are challenges that are there. So maybe let's look at some of those challenges. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, and before we get to the challenges, I wanted to talk about the results of the poll. So thank you for taking that initial poll. And it looks like the responses came back that everybody on the webinar has yes was the answer for 50% of the group, said that they're planning to develop a SaaS application, and the other 50% said they've tried but weren't successful, and nobody answered no. So very interesting, and we can get into the Q&A session to talk about some of the things that weren't successful and why they weren't successful. So getting back to we will have more poll questions throughout the webinar, so thank you. And right now we're going to talk about why software products are becoming SaaSy. So as you know, like the cloud has really enabled the evolution of the SaaS software products, right? The market is expected to grow, significantly throughout 2022. And why is that? And it's basically, from an operations perspective, in the past you have to, with a on-prem application, is that you have to manage all your hardware and software infrastructure and have the people to be able to do that, the hardware, the software, and the labor, and it can become expensive, and then you can't necessarily scale as quickly, because you then have to purchase more hardware or more people or have the skill sets within your organization to be able to do that. So the cloud has enabled the industry to really build these SaaS products to get away from the internal operations as much. And so also with the architecture of that on-premise software, it's just one way of working. Basically, you can only, it's, you don't have as much flexibility with an on-prem software and the architecture behind it. And then there's also security challenges, right? Once data, the data is, obviously there's lots of hackers out there. Everybody's looking to steal data. There's viruses, ransomware. So you want to be able to keep it within a secure firewall, which the improvements of the cloud, right, and improvements to control the user experience, right, is all within the cloud capabilities today, which allows you to use the SaaS model to build your applications. So with all of the technology improvements across many of the different areas, right, functionality, scalability, expandability, you can SaaS is obviously better. You can also then include the ADA components, make a web responsive app, right, so that you can see it on your mobile, which is great for your user population, because as you know, the mobile market and people using mobile apps is growing, or using their mobile devices. Even if you don't have a mobile app, you can build the application to be web responsive. So that's why SaaS is better. So would you like to expand upon that, Manon?
I think one of the important aspects is this mobile first and cloud first approach, because it is very important that the scalability factor comes in play whenever we are building this application. And nowadays, with the applications or the products that are built, you cannot really predict that what is going to be the surge in terms of demand or in terms of the use of application. So having it cloud enabled makes more sense, and that with the rise of cloud, I think we have sufficient resources and the infrastructure available so that we can make it really the way we want it to be extendable. So with that, I think we can go into the next slide. Right. So when we talk about, we establish that, okay, there is a need for SaaS development, the custom development is definitely the need for an R, but what are the best practices to do so? And when we call it as a SaaS application development, as I was stressing upon the cloud native part, we need to make sure that we leverage all the available cloud services in a much efficient way, so that we can think about the security, the scalability of the application. Overall maintainability is also very important. It's not just about building the application at the beginning. The adoption, the maintenance, enhancement, all things are really crucial when we build the applications. And even the technology selection plays a crucial role, because it might be possible that sometimes you pick up a technology for building a custom application, which is something where you feel that, okay, this is where we are quite comfortable with. But you need to look at least 5-year, 10-year horizon to see that how the technology is going to evolve. How long will it be supported? Is that going to support the upcoming needs, not just from the user experience perspective, but also from the integration perspective? What different technology and tool sets that as an organization will be having it. So that selection of technology also plays a major role. And then the superior user experience that needs to be thought of, because you want to ensure that it kind of integrates with the overall organization user base. People are accepting that application, they are using that application. And one of the critical success factor of any product development or any software development is that it's user adoption. People are really using it. Make the application should make their life more productive. So that's the reason why the user experience plays a key role. And with this kind of best practices, we can actually enable to have best practices of designing and even the user experience been intervene into the development of application that we are building. Uh, Even though the architectural principles that are available in market or even the community uses a lot of different uh, ways of architecting an application, but we need to accept that microservice based architecture that has evolved and reached to a stage where it is more or less been adopted by as one of the standard multi-tenant architecture in the industry. And multi-tenancy is important because it may be possible that you are building the application for one set of users or one set of community or one set of departments, be it an internal application. But you should always keep a room open for the expansion of that into a completely different set of user base, completely different set of departments. So in that case, if the architecture of the application is designed with this multi-tenancy aspect in front, I think that will allow the application to scale in a really, really efficient way. And one of the aspect is to have this application built for the self-service purpose as well. So how do we make it or design that application so that it can scale itself without significant effort? So using those cloud native technologies to enable application to scale in a way so that there are a lot of things can be done. Even automation can be built on top of the product to make sure that it provides that self-service capability and not really reaching out to the development team for anything and everything, be it just a small kind of a flag change or small kind of a text change into a web form. So all this kind of things, if we enable the users to do a self-service changes into this kind of small business critical functions, it makes more sense to have the application built on such a platform which will allow them to do this kind of operations. Debbie, do you think anything that you feel based on your past experience you want to add something over here in terms of best practices?
Well, actually, what I want to talk about a little bit more is just about the multi-tenant and the advantages of when you do use SaaS, you have the ability to make it multi-tenant, which allows you to, if you have the ability, if you have the desire or need to, kind of do a subscription-based model to allow to gain some, revenue from your actual application. So that is another thing to think about, is if you ever have goals or visions in the future to take your application and, you know, have multiple customers use your application and they use it. It's basically the Salesforce-ish model. That is another benefit of, obviously you need to use the SaaS model in order to make that successful. And as far as some of the best practices, we're going to get into the next slide where we talk about the development approach, which is what helps you build this custom app, right? This SaaS development approach, which is very similar to any kind of custom development project, but then you just have to, with SaaS, is make sure the architecture supports that SaaS model. So, I'll start with it, and then Manon, you can finish up.
Sure.
So obviously in the beginning of your development, you need to understand the vision of your product, maybe short-term, long-term vision, what is the target audience, who's going to use this product, what are the goals of your product, what is the, or what is the product positioning in the market, or even if you're building something internally, you need to understand where you need to go, where you are now, like kind of that roadmap of features and functions, and maybe even do a competitive analysis if you're looking to compete against other products that are out there on the market. And so, again, define that goal, and define those initiatives to achieve the goal, right? And that feature road when you're ready, and you know that there's if it's a market, if you're building a SaaS product for sale, for example, like subscription, like one of our customers that we're going to talk about in the case study section, is just understand what your competitors are doing, how your product would be used, who are the users who would potentially buy that, the different uses, right, all of that sort of thing, and then really understand what your competitive advantage is about your product that you're about to create. So it's good to look at all of those things before you start the development. And then once you get down to understanding the market and your audience and the positioning, et cetera, then you can start actually talking about the features, the roadmap, prioritizing your features. One of the key things is that you really need to get to that MVP. That is the benefit of the Agile method, and to really understand what your users are going to say about your product, versus the old days of waterfall, where you don't get any advantage until you release the entire product, and then you don't understand what the users really wanted. So it's, even if it's really thin in terms of features, it's really good to get the product out, because you really get to hear from your users. So you can even do beta trials into production to get that feedback, and prioritize and then develop those features in that order. And then after each sprint, as you develop in usually about 2 months, you can actually get a product out, at least a thin product, and then add on it over time, right? So the process is really to create that prioritized backlog and continue to prioritize it after each iteration of releasing. And you'll obviously be writing user stories and tasks within that product backlog. And along this, when you develop the feature roadmap, you're usually initially doing some planning of what your sprints and releases are going to be and what your beta is. And then it's really important. You might even, after several iterations, you're going to replan. So it's constant planning, rolling wave planning, as you move through the product development phase. And as you release these features, you can, you're going to have a UAT phase, and you're going to go into beta production, and then continually release more features to keep your users, interested, and you can continually evolve it and keep it custom to those users, right? And really get understanding of what people want. And some of those things can be very small to the user interface, to something big, but it's good to understand your users' perspectives. So Manon, anything else to add?
No, I think maybe the important aspect that you highlighted over here is you need to go to that nitty-gritty, to that level of details that is required, and making sure that some of the high-level goals that are defined for the product is actually going downstream and reaching to that level where even a small feature is developed or even been tested or being rolled out. And that's where the overall testing plays a key role. Even the performance testing or vulnerability testing that needs to be done for a product, that is something very important, because you might feel that, okay, if this software on an application is built for an in-house purpose, why do I need to do a load testing? But just imagine a situation or a scenario whereby, let's say, you build this application for 50 users, and over a period of time, let's say, organization grows and it reaches to, let's say, 100 or 120 users. If your application is not capable of scaling or accepting that amount of load of users to performing those activities, then at that point in time, rectifying those issues or redeveloping that application to make sure that it caters to that need would be way more costly than just considering some of those kind of testing aspect during the development itself. So that's very crucial, that some of these key fundamental aspect of SaaS development should be considered while even building a smallest of the custom application. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Manon. All right, I think I'm going to ask the second poll question now. Have you worked with a SaaS application development company in the past or earlier? It's either yes or no, and so we can open up the poll now, and we'll move on to the next slide, which is basically why should you outsource a SaaS custom app development, right? So usually people's expertise in the company is more their business function, right? All of your experts are mostly focused on, whatever your core business goals and strategic visions are, and they're not necessarily an IT shop. So one of the things that you can do when you outsource it is leverage the expertise of an IT service provider to, who's done it many times to do the work, right? Then you can focus on running your business and really working on your business, your operations, and moving forward. You can leverage a global delivery network when you pick a provider. You can have, you can choose between different ways that you want to engage with the company. It provides you with flexible pricing. Usually a company can provide, select a company who can provide that 24/7 maintenance and support and security. If it is a application that needs 24/7 support, that allows you to get zero downtime and continuous customization to your app. And then if you have any compliance related issues and challenges, you can hand it right over to your application development team from your outsourced provider. And that allows the outsourced provider has the ability to scale up and scale down as needed based on, features and functions that are needed. So that's those are pretty much the key reasons and why you should outsource the custom app development. All right, and then before we get to this slide, I do want to mention that the poll looks like nobody answered the poll. So if you've worked with a SaaS application development company, so we will head towards the next slide. So then, how do you actually choose that application development provider? If you decide to outsource the SaaS development partner to do your applications, you want to look for somebody who has expertise in building these applications, obviously, and that has some case studies and development approach and sound processes. And then if you've made the technology stack decision already, you want to make sure you have a partner who knows the technology stack or can help you decide the technology stack based on the goals and the requirements of your product. And, they can recommend the pros and cons based on what your current technology is that you're currently using at your organization. You obviously want to look for somebody who has the full cycle development team, which includes your user experience designers, your testers, your business analysts, as well as developers and tech leads, application architects, cloud architects, right? So there is a series of skill sets that you need to build that development team, or that you would need. So you want to make sure that your partner has those skills. Or, maybe even the partner, if you want to retain some of the skills in-house, or knowledge of the product from the tech side, you can find a partner who's willing to actually partner with you, and they'll fill in the gaps of the skills that you don't have. So you want to make sure that they fit within that area. The other key part of a custom development SaaS product is integration with other third-party applications. So most of the time, your company would probably have other applications they're using. So you want to make sure that that partner has done integrations. And then obviously that they have some sort of managed services capabilities. If you can find a partner that does all of these things, that's excellent, because then it relieves the stress of you having to do any of those. And that's some of the key criteria to pick the partner. Manon, anything? Okay. I think we're going to move on to, let me go to the third poll question. Oh, okay. So yes. The third poll question is, who has upgraded or managed your custom applications now? Oh, okay. So it looks like 100% of you have done this in-house. All right. So that's the answer to that poll question. So to tell you a little bit about Synoptic's development services. So we have those full service custom development services and capabilities. We do SaaS application development consulting. We've done multi-tenant architecture upgrades or help you design a multi-tenant architecture. We do SaaS application development. We do all the testing, the UI, UX, the application design, the technology migration, and the DevOps. So the full suite of activities we provide. So we can then leverage our skills with your school skills and utilize our expert pool of resources to build the software tailored to your needs. And then why should you select Synoptic's development services? So Manon, you want to take this?
Yeah. So whenever we talk about this software development, custom application development services, there are a few things that one should look for a partner. And one of the key aspect of that is the global delivery, whether your partner is really supporting global delivery model or not. Synoptic has a really well-equipped global delivery team, which is flexible in terms of accommodating any kind of requirement in terms of flexing up or flexing down the resources. We have different sort of engagement models that we provide in terms of whether it's a fixed price or time and material, staff augmentation, or even we have introduced a sprint-based model whereby you are specifically paying for a sprint, and that sprint Scrum team comprises of developers, a right combination of developers, business analyst, designer, or a quality assurance engineer, cloud infrastructure architect. So it's a very good packaged team that is available, which can help in terms of building the right type of SaaS products. With at least 100 plus SaaS product that Synoptic has delivered for the clients that we are serving in this particular space, more than 200 clients that we have served so far. And that's where the experience that we bring to the table in terms of the overall quality assurance processes, the frameworks that we have built so far, our specialized integration libraries that we bring to the table for literally integrating with all sort of different enterprise applications, be it in ERPs or CRMs or even a lot of marketing automation tools. The specialized support services that we provide in terms of managing and maintaining this application follow the Sun approach, 24/7 support model that Synoptic has. We provide the turnkey tools and solution usage so that you can build the application based on the needs that you have. And one of the things where we, as a Synoptic, feel proud about is that more than 95% of our resources are certified in their respective area. So we hold that kind of certification. Even when we talk about cloud technologies, we are specialized in one of the preferred partner from likes of Microsoft and Amazon. And that's why I think it is very important that Synoptic can be that key partner for providing all sort of SaaS development services need. Yep. Debbie, do you want to go on next?
Nope. I think we're going to move into the case studies. So you can take it. Thank you.
quickly talking about this couple of case studies that we have. So it's the employee incentive portal that we built for a customer. So it's a mobile application as well as a web application that is built for a client who is kind of specializing in this market of temporary employment, which is where you basically motivate the employees through some gamification that will help them in reducing the customer churn, help them in evaluating their skills, providing them right sort of learning management. So all those things built on this platform, and that's available, and it's been used by multiple states across United States, and also that's recently been launched in Canada as well. So this particular platform was built on Microsoft technologies, and the mobile application was built on Android and iOS as the native applications. I'll just quickly go to the next case study that we have. This is where it was more for research and advisory firm, where we have built a SaaS product which is for their benchmark analysis, and that is an application built to process millions of records of data, which is allowing their subscribers of the firm to really access the benchmark data. Any organization or any company wants to just compare themselves against the industry benchmark, against their peers, and that will allow them to see the results, how they are aligned with their competition, what all changes they should be making to their overall organization strategy to really reap the benefit of what is happening in the market. So these are just two of the quick case studies that we have picked up, but we are happy to discuss if you have any further points on that to give us more in-depth walkthrough and maybe a demonstration of some of these applications.
Yes, thank you, Manon.
Yeah, Debbie,
so we will definitely, if you're interested in hearing more about those case studies or any others, we're happy to talk to you more about them, as they are super exciting for us. But as we wrap up, just wanted to give you an understanding of who Synoptic is. We are a global systems integrator and managed IT service provider with various different capabilities across these 8 pillars that you see on the screen. We are an Azure expert MSP, which means we went through a rigorous auditing process to get through Microsoft's auditors to get that certification, which is less than 100 vendors in the world. However, we are technology agnostic across the platforms, and we'll help you come up with a solution that works best for you and your organization. And we work in many different industries as well. We've been here for 20 years. We just hit 20 years, and we've grown from a small group of people to 950 employees globally, which allows us to support our clients across the sun and the globe, and in many different countries. So we not only have product and custom development, but we also have business apps and data, cloud, infrastructure, consulting, leadership. And we offer very flexible models in terms of way we can work with your organization, from, a staff aug all the way to we take responsibility for the project, or you just need a little bit of expertise in a certain area, some sort of 40-hour a month kind of contract of this certain kind of skill. So that's one of the great things about Synoptic, is the flexible ways we can work with your organization based on your needs. So with that, let's get to, I think now we're at question and answer time. So we will start. You can certainly post any questions to the chat window, and we will use that to answer them. So as there's already been a question already, or a couple questions, I'll start with that, but feel free to type in your questions. What are the technologies that your team works with for custom development? So that question is for us. So we work with many different custom development platforms, from Java, JavaScript, HTML, MVC, Angular, which are like front end, .NET, Node and Vue.js, Python, C#, right? The list is fairly extensive. And those are just, then there's the database, right? So there's different layers and components of an application, right? There's database, and then there's the UI UX piece, and then there's the CI/CD tools, the pipeline for the DevOps. So GitHub, Azure DevOps, Jira, Trello, all those different tools. So we work with the wide range of tools, and certainly across the Microsoft stack, even Microsoft Power App, Power Automate, right? RPA. And so we work with many different technologies in terms of when we develop our SaaS applications, as well as you have to then consider the cloud, right? So the cloud is another part of the components of that SaaS application. Manon, anything else that you want to add there?
No, I think, and all the technologies that you mentioned, but we keep ourselves updating with the latest trends and latest technologies that are coming in market. So maybe a few months down the line, this list would have been already grown further. So that's how we keep ourselves updated with even the likes of new technology that is coming into the market. Even we start serving those as well. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. All right. The next question is, what are the metrics on which you track the success of your SaaS applications? So I'll start with just talking about, we look at, so there can be the technical side of the metrics in terms of the way the application is the performance metrics, how many users are using them, right? The features and functions, like are the users happy with the features and functions? So we look at the performance in terms of response time, load balancing, right? Are we keeping the load? And then user adoption statistics, and is it increasing, right? Those sorts of things we look at, and look at if you're doing even a modernization, looking at how it trended from the past to the new modern app, right? We'd like to see growth there. Any other metrics, Manon, that you can think of?
I think user adoption is the key, and that where number of transaction as well, because that will tell you whether it's adopted. Whenever you're talking about any consumer-facing or customer-facing app where you don't have much idea on how the customer is actually experiencing the product. So number of the volume of transaction, the overall response time of various functions within the application, that will give you a gist of how the overall application is doing in the market, other than a direct feedback that you receive from a customer.
All right. Thank you, Manon. And then, have you developed any custom SaaS applications for a geo-distributed team? So we are a global company, and most of our teams are global, like a mix of onshore, offshore. We adopt, and we've done that. The case studies that were provided in this presentation were done with the global delivery model that are teams across the world. We can certainly operate in any way that your organization wishes or needs, but we find success in having a good balance of that, which also provides some, like some little price sensitivity, as well as being able to have the support across the globe. Yeah.
Just to add on that, I think if we talk about, so that's something with a geo-distributed team, we have delivered a solution, but we also talk about application built for a geo-distributed users. It's where, to specifically give you an example, where we have built a B2B commerce application for a customer, where it is currently being used throughout United States, North America, even the European countries, where it is being utilized in some of the parts of Middle East as well. So that's one such example where we have built it, and that's again, as built on a cloud technologies to harness really the power of cloud. That's how it is built on. But yes, we have built it for that kind of environment as well.
All right, thank you, Manon. And with that, there's no other questions and we're kind of out of time. And I want to thank everybody for attending this webinar. And if you have any further questions or inquiries, you can certainly get a hold of Manon or I, or we would love to talk to you. And we hope you have a great rest of your day. And thanks again for spending this time with us.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.